This is Verso over at the Edge of Casual, and I hope you have a fever for some transport, because today I'm going to be answering the question of how do you start a game of Transport Fever 2 in 1850 at the hard difficulty. I actually don't recommend playing at the very hard difficulty, at least not in this year. It's pretty much impossible. All you can do is tread water. In 1850, on the hard difficulty, you can do pretty well, so let's just go ahead and get started, and I will kind of discuss some of the basic game mechanics as we go along. So first things first, what you have to do is identify where you want to start your initial transport line. And I think most people new to the game would probably be tempted to start with the city, try to get, try to supply Hong Kong with whatever these are, like mechanical parts and bricks, but I would say don't worry about that right now. Just find a line that looks easy to manage and do it. And we've got one right here. We've got the Hong Kong forest, and we've got a Hong Kong sawmill over here. We're just going to bring logs from the forest to the sawmill and turn them into planks. And in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and break this road here. We're going to demolish the road and just rebuild it, because one thing about Transport Fever 2, and this is not so much of a factor at different difficulty levels, but at harder difficulty levels, your profit margin will be very slim, so you want to make sure that you're optimizing your routes. And because profit is based upon the as the crow flies distance between two locations, you want your roads to be as straight as possible. So let's just go ahead and build a new road here, and actually we're going to do like the bulk of the vast majority of this road we're just going to have straight. That's pretty. I'm gonna micromanage the hell out of this, but it's fine. If you can bear with me, it will all be for the best in the end. This road we're not so concerned about, because we're not actually going to use this road right now, but we do have to complete it. We can't just go ahead and break roads willy-nilly and not fix them. The city would complain. So we are good to go with this route here. So in order to get this transport line up and running, what we need to do is obviously we need to get endpoints on here. So this is the building submenu of the roads menu, and we're going to go ahead and get a depot over here. What do they call it? A truck station. And we can go ahead and put that across the street from this log factory here. But one thing I will say is that you will pay for every little platform that you have on here, and in this case we only actually need the one platform, because we're only going to be picking up here. So we can go ahead and place that down right here, and we can place it anywhere along here actually, and it's fine. But as long as you see the factory actually lighting up, then you're good to go. And in fact, it probably does make sense to put it a little bit over here on this curve, like a little bit closer. Doesn't really matter, honestly. At this point, I'm just min-maxing, and it's pointless. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and put a drop-off point over here by the sawmill. And what I like to do is actually just build a little turnaround street. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy here. Okay, that's a line into the sawmill like that, and put our drop-off point over here. And because we're only dropping off here, and we're not taking these planks to anywhere else, then we can have a simple truck stop, and it's a lot cheaper for maintenance purposes. It's a lot cheaper to buy as well, as you can see. And that's the way to go. I mean, so I think new players to the game, they're probably thinking, okay, I'm turning these logs into lumber or whatever, and I need to now deliver that lumber somewhere, and they're gonna drive themselves crazy, bringing the lumber over to this machine's factory or whatever. You don't have to worry about it. This factory will decide how to dispose of whatever lumber it produces. Your main goal, your job, what you're getting paid to do, is just to deliver logs to this sawmill, and that's all. Don't concern yourself with anything else. With that said, we now need a depot in order to get some cars on the streets, so let's go ahead and do that. And this is cheap enough to buy that we can move it later if we really want to. Keep it simple, just put it right there. Okay. Now, we need to go ahead and create our new line. We'll go ahead and start it here and have it end here. And it's a short one. And I like these short, simple lines because they're easy to manage. Also, you can see if we check the contour levels, where is it? We're not going up or down any major hills or anything like that, so we shouldn't have to deal with any impediments to our speed of any sort, like the speed of our vehicles on the road. So we are good to go. This is a really nice, clean route. No terrain challenges. So I think we can just go ahead and get started. We don't have to test it out first. We know pretty much the game will assure that it's profitable. So let's just go ahead and get some vehicles on the road by going to the vehicle manager and purchasing a cargo vehicle. And in 1850, we only have the one option. We have the I'm playing with the Asian assets, so it's the Asian horse-drawn carriage. And this costs about 24,000 a year, and then on top of that, I think it's about 4,000 in maintenance per year. Just general like upkeep of the vehicles. Let's go ahead and get this on line 1, and then I think we're just going to do 10 just right off the bat. Probably we should do even more. You know what? I'm not even, let's not mess around. Let's just go ahead and do 20 of them. This should be fine. Now, what I want to do here is, what you may not realize is that at the beginning of the game, this is not your money. This is all borrowed money. So I think interest is about 1% per year, per cycle. I'll explain that a little bit more later. So we're just going to go ahead and pay that off right away. As much as we can. We're going to keep a little bit, or at least, whatever we can pay off. And because we don't want to have to be dealing with the interest. At this point, we only want to take loans when we intend to use that money. So let's go ahead and get time moving here. So we can go ahead and speed it up. And while our trucks are getting on the road, I think it's a good time to mention a little bit the way time works in this game. So I'm playing at a pause date speed right now. So what you should know is that regardless of what date speed you choose, like the game works on like a cycle. Normally at the default speed, which would be like 1x, it would be like a 12-minute cycle. Well, I mean, the cycle is always 12 minutes, but at the default date speed of 1 times, that's a full year. And you can change this if you want so that each cycle is like a half a year, or I think maybe even a quarter year, or even 2 years. You can do it whatever suits your playstyle. Right now at the beginning of the game, I think it's worthwhile to change the date speed to just paused, and that will basically keep time from moving on right now. The business cycle remains the same. It's still 12 minutes if you're playing at this speed, but you can speed it up to 4 times if you want. But regardless, it's difficult to explain. Maybe I can answer this in comments if anybody has any questions about it. But it's always a 12-minute cycle at this default speed. And over those 12 minutes, that is how all of your finances are calculated, like all of your income, etc. And so if we go and check our line statistics, for example, what we're looking at here is that our line with the vehicles that are currently on it, we are moving about 140 units per cycle. And that is pretty good, because if you look at what this sawmill can intake, they want about 200 units. Actually, they want to produce 200 units. And it takes 2 logs to produce one plank. So that's why you've got, they want to send 400 units and they want to produce 200 units. So basically that works out perfectly, right? So if you were to send all 400 units from this forest to the sawmill, then you would be taking full advantage of this line. Probably not going to worry about that so much. I think if we can even just get 200 there over the course of the cycle, that would be fine. We'd be doing pretty well. So we can add more cars as we go. In fact, we probably will, because I think what we'll find is that this line is going to be pretty profitable. Now, at the very hard difficulty, this would not be a profitable line. I mean, it would still be profitable, but after paying back interest on the loan, etc., you would just be treading water. Don't forget as well that your assets, like your road depot and your truck stops, these are all things that you pay for as well in each cycle. So let's take a look at the finances a little bit and see how that works. So what we get from delivering goods comes off, actually goes onto the balance sheet as ticket sales, and that goes for moving personnel as well, like moving people. But it's cargo and people, they both go on as ticket sales. And the ticket price is, and there's a formula out there for this. I don't want to get too much into it. It's based on, as I said, the straight line distance between locations, and also like the top speed of the vehicle that you're using. So that's why you want minimize curves on your route, make sure you're not going up and down hills, that sort of thing. All these things will eat into your bottom line. So moving on from that, then you've got the maintenance on the vehicles themselves, and as I said, we can check one of these vehicles just to see what it's costing us. but each one of these vehicles is costing us about $4,000 a year just for basic update, just for basic upkeep. Not even talking about replacing them when they get old. We don't really have to worry about that too much in the horse and buggy years. It's fine. We can just keep them on the road no matter how bad they get. And then of course we've got some road maintenance. I'm not really sure what we're paying for here because I don't think we own many private roads. Most of the roads, even the ones we built, are owned by like the county or whatever. And then of course maintenance infrastructure, which are the things like our truck stops, etc. And then beyond that, we just have our loan interest. So currently we have a loan of about, we have a 1 million loan, so this should be about 10,000 per year, but actually it's a little bit less. It's less than 1%. So that's good to know. So we're doing pretty well here. You can see we're profitable already in this cycle. I keep calling it a year, but we should just call it cycles. Already in this cycle, we're doing pretty well. We're up about 32,000. So we can start paying back our loan pretty soon. But we might just want to get more cars on the road in order to optimize this route. So I mean, we could get a lot more than this. I mean, you can see we've got gaps in between these cars. We've got spaces to fill here. So let's just go ahead and add a few more. Okay, now this route is profitable, and we basically don't even have to think about it anymore. So at this point, I think you're good to go. You've got one line that is going to be like a cash cow for you. You know it's working. It's so simple, like too simple to fail. And we can go ahead and change the date speed if we want. That said, I'm going to leave this pause for now just because I think it's easier to illustrate all this stuff if we don't have to worry about technology advancing and so forth. Now with that said, I want to look at one more thing before I let you go. That will be to look at a slightly more complicated transport situation where we are accepting 2 inputs. And I think I remember seeing one over here. Where was it? Shanghai, I believe. Yeah, and we can go anywhere we want on the map, by the way. We don't have to stick to that region. In fact, you should move around the map. You should try to find the simplest trade routes you can and just kind of work them to death. So yes, it's this steel mill over here, and you can see that this takes 2 inputs. It takes iron ore from the mine, and it also takes coal from the coal mine. And luckily, we've got both over here. We've got iron ore here, we've got coal over here. I think we could do a route. This looks almost equidistant. I think we could do a route from here to here and then here to here, and then match them up. And that's what I want to get at, is just dealing with a situation where you've got multiple inputs and we just need to get them like coordinated so that they're both sending the same amount of raw materials, at the same time. This will make more sense as I just do it. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So first things first, as usual, we are going to need some roads. So let's do that. And I'm thinking about how I'm going to do this. Okay, the road stuff in this game is not the most user-friendly, I will say, but that'll work. That'll work. Yeah, we've got some terrain challenges here, so that's not great. If we look at the contours, which I probably should have done beforehand, we've got some terrain challenges. It may actually make more sense to move. No, we've got terrain challenges on this side as well. Yeah, I think we'll work around it. And we will just trust to the game to make this profitable regardless. So we're going to have, let's see, how bad is that? That's not so bad. We do have to eat into the mountain a little bit. That's going to cost us some money, but I think we'll get away with it. I think it's a little rude to get too close to that farmland. I feel like they're not going to appreciate me getting this close. All right, this kind of stuff is the boring part of the game. I'm going to try to keep this to a minimum. I will slice this stuff out. Okay, I spent a lot of money on these roads. I spared you the boring part. I hope I did anyway. Okay, so now we've got the roads coming in here. I think we're good to go. So same deal. We just go ahead and get a truck stop on this side and on this side. And we can just start with one. We can start with one line if we want to. We don't have to do both of them to start. In fact, I probably will start with this one because I think this one's a straighter shot. I think it can be more profitable. So let's go ahead and do that. Feels weird putting these depots just out in the middle of nowhere, but it does not matter. Literally does not seem to matter where you put these. I don't intend to run a whole bunch of different lines out here, so it doesn't matter. Okay, and let's not forget to put a truck stop over here. Create our line, which begins here and ends here. And let's get it started. We need to get some vehicles on this line now. And we're just gonna buy as many of these as we can. It looks like right now we can only buy one of them and one extra. So let's just go ahead and do that. Now they want to produce 200 of these, which means that we can send 400 of the coal from this plant. So at the moment, we're only going to be able to send about 9 per cycle. So obviously that's something that we want to, that's a situation we want to improve. Okay, create the line. You've seen me do this a couple of times already, you know how this works. And let's get some vehicles on the line, starting from the Shanghai Road Depot. Let's buy a vehicle. Oh, I don't have any money to do that, so I'm not gonna do that until I have some money. So again, we're waiting, we're just letting it simulate. Some people might consider it a little bit cheaty to pause the game at the beginning. I don't care. The name of the channel is Edge of Casual, and that's how I play the game. I do like to play at harder difficulties usually, but I also like quality of life features, and this is one of them. Even at the normal game speed, things move pretty quickly, and by the time you've got your lines sort of sorted out and you've figured out what's going to be profitable, like what are going to be your cash cows, it's already too late. Like, technology has moved on, and you've got new vehicles and you've got to replace all your old ones. I will go ahead and put it in 1x speed soon enough. Actually, I'll do that at the end of the next cycle. We'll go to the end of this cycle and then we'll move time. We should probably let this line run a little bit just to see exactly if these numbers are correct. But it looks like the rate is different. So these routes are different lengths, they take a different amount of time. Line 3 is a little bit longer, so with 2 vehicles on the road, they're only moving about 8 per year or per cycle, whereas on line 2 they're moving 11 per cycle. So we just need to calculate the ratio that we need between these two so that they're both delivering the same amount per year. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that right. Well, this one's easy. So each vehicle carries 4 units. I think it's like 400 units technically of the raw material. And so we know that they are making a trip, yeah, basically every 6 minutes. So they're making 2 round trips every cycle. This one is a little more tricky. They're making almost 3 round trips, but not quite. So essentially, each vehicle on line 2 is moving about 5.5 units per year, and each vehicle on line 3 is moving about 4. So that's your ratio, is like 4 to 5.5. So if we want to move, say, let's say our goal is to get 100 going back and forth on both lines. So that means on line 2 we need about 18 vehicles, and obviously on line 4 we need about 25. So 18 on the red and 25 on the pink. So that's going to be our goal, I guess. We'll shoot for that anyway, see what happens. I should say at this point we know we have one line that's making us a lot of money, so I think we should be okay to take another 500,000 out of the bank and just use that to get these lines up and running. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so it's not perfect, but I think it's pretty close. I think we did pretty well. So the red line is going to deliver about 63 coal per year, per cycle, and this plant is going to deliver about 65 of the iron ore. And if we were producing steel at this plant and we were concerned about that, that would be perfect. Basically, we're 1-to-1 on the raw inputs. So that is perfect. And you know what? I think at this point, we just leave it there. So both of these lines are looking pretty ugly right now because these new cars are getting on the road and they're not earning any income yet. But I think once they do, these are both going to be very profitable roads, and we can start paying back our loan because I think we're going to start raking in some pretty good income. So actually, I will let this simulate a little bit and rejoin you in just a second. I just want to prove to you that I know what I'm talking about, and we will at this point go ahead and change the date speed to 1 as well, and just allow time to move on as normal. We've got a few good lines here, and I think we're good to go. We now have like a pretty solid business running here. We know what we're doing, and I think we've proven that we are capable of running a transport network. Yeah, so as you can see, we are pretty good on both of these lines, and this one will sort itself out pretty soon, I think, as well. So we can just go ahead and end it here, I think. But I did want to show this because I think this is a game that is not real complicated, but it is also, it doesn't go out of its way to make itself easy to understand, in my experience. Like every time I come back to the game, or when I first was learning the game, it's like, what do all these numbers mean? What's the frequency? What's the rate? You know, what is the balance? To be perfectly honest, I'm still not sure how the balance is calculated. I guess it's trailing over the past some months or something like that. I don't know what that is, but the point is, it's a little intimidating, especially, I mean, not at normal difficulty levels, things will just sort of sort themselves out. At hard, it's a little more challenging, but as you can see, it's still not real hard. As long as you keep your routes pretty direct and you're smart about where you place things, then you're good to go. At very hard, again, I don't recommend it because it's just not even fun. You just tread water for decades until you get better vehicles, essentially. So, but I mean, these strategies will work at any level of gameplay, like any difficulty level. Yeah, actually, you know what? Next steps don't even matter. You could successfully just run these 3 transport lines your entire career if you wanted to. Okay, I had to do one more thing before I left it because it was bothering me. I noticed that line 2 was had a much lower throughput than line 3. And as I think I said earlier, the longer you let the routes run, the better these numbers will become. They get a more solid sense of how long things take. So sometimes you just have to let things run a little bit before you really know exactly how many vehicles you need. So now we're good to go again. And I'm going to leave it there. We don't need next steps because this is probably a one and done. But hopefully you learned something today, or not, or if nothing else, you get to see how I play the game. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And as usual, I or somebody smarter than me can hopefully help you. And in the meantime, everybody out there, have a great day. This has been Verso. Thanks for coming out to the Edge of Casual with me. I do love the look of a balance sheet in the black. Okay, last thing I'm saying. Bye, everybody.